It's Monday in Simpsonville, South Carolina. We're expecting snow and sleet, and weather has been stayed below freezing all day. So it's not been real pleasant. But they say that by Wednesday we'll be back up in the 50s and 60s again. So if the snow does come, it will be short-lived, and we should be clearing up quickly this week. So we're talking about the family, 5 areas of conflict. Number 1, relatives. Number 2, communications. Number 3, finances. Number 4, emotional and physical problems. Number 5, spiritual. 5 areas of conflict that the family, if not already experienced, will experience sometime during its lifetime. We talked about relatives and the fact that we need to pray, we need to empathize, we need to forgive, we need to be sure we have perspective, we need to be sure that we have strive for peace as much as within our power. And we looked at Proverbs 1:5. Communications, we said we needed to be spirit-filled, we needed to find the right time and the right place, we needed to listen with empathizing on what they were saying and trying to understand their position. And Proverbs 12:17 through 19 was our scripture text. Finances, we said we need to be sure to remember whose money it is. It's God's money, and it's God's finances and assets. We need to be sure that we compare and evaluate whether or not it's a want or a need in our lives. So many times we think we need something when in fact it's just that we want it, don't really need it. And that we need to be good stewards of all that we have. If God's going to entrust us with more, we got to be faithful with what we have. Proverbs 30 verses 7 through 9, 1 Timothy 6:10 were the scripture verses we used for finances. Today we want to take a look at emotional and physical. It's an incredibly difficult thing and brings a lot of stress into a family's life when somebody is physically ill, especially if it's a long-term illness. Back a number of years ago, I was having considerable pain with my hip, and just to a place where I couldn't be comfortable whether I was sitting, standing, or laying down. And until I had the hip surgery, it put a lot of extra stress on me and on our relationship as a family. And then there's the emotional stress when we're under a lot of pressure. Perhaps jobs are not going well, perhaps the company that we work for are not doing well. Perhaps there's uneasiness whether there's going to be guaranteed continued employment. All of those things bring stress into a family's relationship. And once again, if you haven't had these, you will probably have them during a lifetime. And you need to remember to understand that with your family members as they're going through that. And that's teenagers too, with zits and with dating relationships and with struggling with school and relationships at school and bullying and all of the things that happen at school. Our children go through tremendous emotional and physical difficulties that cause stress. So how do we deal with that? Well, let's take a look at 2 scriptures. First is Proverbs 24:3. By wisdom a house is built. Remember, we said if you lack wisdom, you ask of God. So you can pray for those family members or yourself that are going through those emotional or physical things, and be sure that you ask God for wisdom. Second part of that verse says, and by understanding it is established. We need to try more and more, not just with family, but with everyone, to try to understand why they react as they do, why they act as they do. We need to try to understand their position, empathize the best we can. By understanding it is established. The second verse is Proverbs 17:27. He who restrains his word has knowledge, and he who has a cool spirit is a man of understanding. I remember Lois and I did some skits for a marriage retreat one time, and we did them out of real life experiences. I'd had a really long, hard day in my secular job, and probably put in 14 hours that day, came home very late, hadn't had dinner yet, was right up to my eyeballs with all of the stress and problems of the day. And my wife greeted me at the door, not with, "Hi, honey, I'm glad you're home," or "I'll try to get your dinner ready for you," but with, "The washing machine's broken." And I remember snapping back and said, I'm not fixing it tonight. Well, we come under those times of emotional and physical stress, and it's real easy to snap at each other. So when we think about a man restraining his words and having a cool spirit, it certainly goes a long way to resolving that problem. So what are the 5 keys for this particular area of emotional and physical? Well, the first one is that we need to be sure that we have sympathy for those that are going through emotional and physical problems. And many times we need to ask them in a loving way, not in a sarcastic way, do you want some advice, or are you looking for sympathy? Because I can give you sympathy and comfort, or I can try to give you some advice. Most of the time we know what we need to do. We don't need the advice. What we're really looking for is a sympathy and a comfort. Try to relieve whatever stress you can. Don't add to it. That's a very key thing when somebody's going through emotional and physical. Try as much as is in your power, again, to not add to the problems that the people are having. Thirdly, we need to comfort. Loving and kind comfort goes a long way to anybody that's going through difficulties and emotional or physical problems. We need to console them the very best that we can. And in the case of emotional and physical, sometimes it's necessary to get professional help, to go to people that have been trained in treating either the physical or the emotional problems that they're struggling with. If we do those things, we'll find that by wisdom a house is built, by understanding it's established, and a man who restrains his word is wise, and a person that has a cool spirit is a man of understanding. That's your thought for today. God bless you and have a great day.